to the company. Slave spirit, propagate and obey. Trust up in the hog ties of industry. Live to produce and produce to consume. It's all you know now. Suffering long as you breathe in the fumes. Still here they go, selling you the sky and the stars. Always gotta push it too far. Ain't no profit in my pride. You can't put a price on me. Selling you the sky and the stars. Revenue is all that you are. Ain't no profit in my pride. You can't put a price on living free. A little touch of hope, a little touch of hope goes a long way, spreading color as we glide upon the grace. A little touch of hope, a little touch of hope goes a long way. Time to hack away your shackles, claim your dues, yeah. It's payday. Big fish get the pick of the pond. Little minnows are crushed into caviar. Great beckons with the perks of the cone. Bass gamble in the smoke of a fat cigar. Live to produce and produce to consume. Feed the supply now. Suffering long as you breathe in the fumes. Believe the lies, selling you the sky and the stars. Always gotta push it too far. Ain't no profit in my pride. You can't put a price on me. Selling you the sky and the stars. Revenue is all that you are. Ain't no profit in my pride. You can't put a price on living free. A little touch of hope, a little touch of hope goes a long way, spreading color as we glide upon the grace. A little touch of hope, a little touch of hope goes a long way. Time to hack away your shackles, claim your dues, yeah. It's payday. Selling you the sky and the stars. Now they're gonna push
Hello, friends, and welcome! Welcome to Finishing Friday. Oh my goodness, it's back. It's back. I have been working on the same piece. Hello, Sphere Song. Glad you could be here. I have been working on the same piece for more than a month now, with a short break in between because I was working on some Kill Team stuff. But for more than a month now, I have been working on this little fountain diorama. I say little, but it's one of the larger pieces I've ever painted, and it involved a lot of sculpting. I constructed much of this myself, and we are in the final stages on this piece. I am going to add a few finishing touches today, and then walk away. We're just going to call it done. I think I mentioned last week that last stream, which was Wednesday, that I am sick of looking at this thing and I want it to be done. So we're just going to say, okay, it's done. We're there. As I have said a number of times, I have learned a great deal over the process of creating this thing. Give me 1 second, because I didn't post to any of the Discord channels I normally post to. So I'm going to quickly post to those. And then let's pop over to Zoom Cam and we'll talk about what I'm going to be doing with this piece today to finish it up. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. 10 rabid bears. There we go. Okay. I can't believe we're finally at this point with this piece. So let's go over to Zoom Cam. Join me over on Zoom Cam, chat. Here we are. And here it is. So the last thing you will have seen me doing, if you were watching on Wednesday, is I poured the resin into the base there to create the water. I may have been a little overzealous on this. Let me read to you from the label on the bottle. A glass-clear liquid which levels itself, even on irregular surfaces, to reproduce the effects of transparent, still water. Apply in several fine layers of no more than 3 millimeters thickness to prevent cracks or bubbles in the drying process. Can be colored with model air or game air. When poured on a non-porous surface, glass or polyester, the dried layer can be peeled and cut to measure for brooks and cascades, etc., etc. Well, I did considerably more than 3 millimeters in this pour. It was... I basically poured to about halfway up the fountain, and the result is A, it's a little cloudy, and B, it's not dry yet. Oh, and C, it leaked. I'm not certain how that happened, but it actually did leak out. So the base of this fountain is a takeaway or takeout container. So it is just a single piece. So I don't know how it could have leaked through that. So I must have poured it high enough that it went up over the lip. And I believe what happened is it actually soaked into the foam on these corner pieces. Soaked into the foam, went up through capillary action, and then came down on the outside. So it's leaked out a little bit. I put a paper towel under it, and it stuck to the paper towel. That's okay. It's fine. Hopefully, the fact that it's still wet will actually work in my favor today. My plan is to add some more detail to the water. Hello, lobster. It still looks okay? Yeah, I think it looks fine. It's got a little pucker right here where I I tapped it to see if it was dry, but that's okay because I'm going to be, hopefully, we'll see if this works, but I'm going to be hopefully adding little water spouts from these gargoyles down to the water below. And then I'm going to mold the water around there. We're going to add some foam. I actually have, there we are, water texture acrylic foam. I've never used this stuff, so again, this is an experiment. We're going to see if I can get that to look right. It's going to be tricky. All of this is a learning process, so that's fine. I actually did an extra pour yesterday morning. The surface of this, I don't know if you folks can tell, but it's slightly concave. As it dried, sort of made it concave, like a tube. So I added a little bit more of the water texture to try and flatten it a little bit. I think that worked all right. Anyways, it's looking fine. Let's see, what do I want to work on first? There's several different things I want to do here. So the things we're going to do, we're going to try and do those water spouts from the gargoyles to the water. We're going to try and mold the surface of the water to look like, you know, there's ripples. We're going to add the foam around those ripples. I don't know how this is going to work. I'm going to float a couple of leaves. I have this vine. I'm going to snip a couple of leaves off of this vine, and we're going to float a couple of those on the surface. Just for aesthetics, to make it look interesting, and to cover up any blemishes that I notice. And I want to add to the outside of the fountain a little bit of flocking. Excuse me while I reach right in front of my camera. I want to add a little bit of the Hobby Round spring flocking, which is going to give it sort of a look like a moss growing on the outside. So we're going to add a little bit of that to the edges on the outside of the thing. So that's my plans for today. And no better time than the present. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get out my primer. And we're going to prime a couple of leaves. Just going to scoot this over to one side for now. There. I'm going to just prime them on the spruce, so to speak. Snip off a portion of vine here. There. And we're going to prime a couple of those leaves. And then in a few minutes we'll come back to it and we'll paint them. So I'm going to get out a little bit of primer. Not going to do much painting today. I think the leaves are the only thing I'm really going to be painting. Because most of today is, you know, final look sculpting. Boop, boop, boop. Look for the right brush for this. Okay. So I'm probably not going to put, there is still wet resin on the bottom of this thing. It's annoying. 48 hours later. We'll do this leaf here. Don't need the primer to be that thick. I want to have some texture in it. There we go. Do one of these clusters, maybe? Do this 3-leaf cluster here. only really need to paint one side of this because it's going to be floating on the surface. Actually, maybe, I don't know which way they would land. I think when leaves land, when they land, they cup up this way. So I'm going to have that side up. We'll do this cluster here. Maybe one more. I think we need one more. This cluster here. So that's just going to be some litter on the surface of the water. To make it apparent that, you know, I think it'll look better to have something on the surface to sell the clear nature of the water, so to speak. Like, it'll make it obvious that there's something there, even if it is clear. It's slightly milky, so maybe it doesn't need that, but I think it'll look cooler with something over the top of it. B, just to add some more flavor to the piece. And C, to cover up any blemishes in the resin, because I'm certain to make mistakes as I try to do ripples and stuff. All right, so that's that. Now you can't see it, but on this plate there's a thin layer of resin right on the top here that has dried. And we're going to try and carve out some bits of that to make into the spouts. Now they don't have to be terribly long or terribly wide. I have this one that I was working on the other day. And you can see it's very narrow and very small. The idea is I'm going to have that glued to the mouth and to the water. This is going to be so delicate. This is going to be so hard to do. Okay. All right. I can do this. And if I can't, at least I'll learn something. So let's first try to peel this off the plate. Might be too thin. And here we are. Here's the thickest part of it right here. So I'm just gonna try to carve off a few little wedges. There's one. Two. Someday I'm going to have to do, actually I have a plan to do a cascading waterfall sort of thing. Alright, so I've got my three little wedges. You probably can't see them because they're clear on a white plate. Let's put them on the... Oh, look at this. Resin everywhere. Unbelievable. This is still wet on the bottom. Okay. 2, 3. 3 little bits, and I've got plenty more if I need more. Let's put that to one side. Now let's manipulate them. So what I have done in my first experiment was sort of fold it in half to make it into like a tube. There. And we really need to pinch it off narrow at the end that's going to be on the gargoyle. And I don't have a lot of space to work in, so it's going to have to be a very short arc. So that's kind of what I'm going for. Okay. And then we're going to glue it to the gargoyle. So for that, we need glue and tweezers. But let's make sure it's the right height before we do that. So, my tweezers. Yep. This is definitely one of those days that's going to require a lot of concentration. Okay, so there's my little resin bit. Go like that. I think it's the right height, actually. Okay. This is one of those days when my fingers feel huge and clumsy. Alright. Glue. I'm going to use Zap-A-Gap because this is not plastic. And plastic glue works great on plastic, but not great on everything else. So I'm going to try and put some glue on the mouth of the gargoyle. I don't know if that's going to work. No. I've lost my thing. Where? There it is. Okay. I'll try and put some glue on the end of the spout, where it's going to attach to the gargoyle. And then we'll add maybe more resin to the other end. This bottle of Zap-A-Gap is beginning to get gummy and thick. It's not ideal. Oh man. I think this is the end of this bottle of Zap-A-Gap, so I'm going to just snip off the end of the bottle. Pop! Wow, okay. Got some mileage. And this bottle of Zap-A-Gap is going to go in the garbage when we're done. Got my applicator. Is this going to work? Let's find out. Zap-A-Gap is not supposed to be this thick. There it goes. Okay. Can I get it onto the mouth of the gargoyle? Yes. Okay, now there's a thick, gooey layer of glue. God. There. gossamer strands of glue. All right, now tweezers. Grab this, and I'm going to attempt to stick it in that glue. There. I'm trying to adjust this so the angle looks right. That's not the worst. Not super happy with the glue, but it's fine. Looks okay. Okay. It's sort of a weird angle. It's better. At some point I'm going to have to stop just messing with it and say it's good enough. All right. You know what? Fine. It's fine. Okay. Now do I add glue at the other end? I think I add a little glue at the other end. Remember, we're going to be sculpting this a little bit. Come on, glue. You just have to work for today, and then you can go to rest in the garbage. There. Okay. Whew, that's one. Oh, man. Okay, coffee. Oh, thanks, Amanda. A useful sight of what adhesive to use. Because I mentioned that plastic glue was not the correct adhesive for this application. Where'd my tweezers go? All right. Progress. Two more. Okay. At least now I know what I'm doing. Just molding another of these little spouts. And try putting the glue on the end of it instead of on the gargoyle mouth. Should have started on the rear gargoyle so that if I messed up, it wouldn't be as apparent, but whatever. Okay. There. Big old glob of glue on there. God, this glue. Ah, this is so frustrating. Okay. Tweezer time. Hopefully not glue this to my tweezers. Stick. One of the things I'm trying to be cognizant of is that I don't want to hold the whole model at an angle, because the resin is still a little bit wet and I don't want it oozing to one side. Oh, goddamn. Okay. Oh, this is so hard. Okay, this bit is too long. Can I snip the end of it? Okay. Oh, it fell off. Oh, god damn it. Oh, this is so hard. Okay. Tweezers. Okay. So, I was correct the first time. Put the glue on the gargoyle. Arced. Like so. gargoyle's mouth. This is so difficult. Excel. And then manipulate it into place. Okay. Whew, suffering for my art today. Yeah, oh, this is hard. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Oh, my goodness. You can't see it, chat, but there are little gossamer strands of glue floating all around this now. There. Force that end into his mouth enough. God damn it. Alright, that's not working. Fresh piece. Okay. Luckily, we have plenty of spare bits. We can make this work. So that last piece, I snipped it too short. This one is too long. Just going to snip off a little bit at the bottom. There. Okay. Attach it to his mouth. If I can. this. Again, it's too long. Snoop off the bottom. There. That's better. That's better. We're getting there, chat. We're getting there. Add some glue to the other end of that to stick it in place. There. Okay, fine. Shape the spout and hope it keeps its shape. And the first spout that I worked on has sagged. So that tells us something. That something being, I'm going to have to check on this periodically until it has a chance to dry. Okay. Okay. One more. Need to twist this maybe. Not perfect, but it's approximating what I'm going for. I've got two spouts in, and they're beginning to look kind of the way I imagined them. Alright, let's do one more. And then we'll start working on where the spouts are impacting the water. Add some flavor to that. Okay. All this is very good practice. I can't say I'm not learning a lot. about manipulating this water texture stuff. About the limitations of what I'm able to do in terms of sculpting. Glue on gargoyle. Come on, glue. Okay. Yeah. Just making a freaking mess here. Fine. Okay. One more spout to attach. There we go. Got my spout. Got my gargoyle covered in glue. Attach spout to gargoyle. Boop, boop. This is actually going a little more smoothly than the last couple ones did. There. And we're going to snoop off the end of this spout. Make it a little bit shorter. Oh, crap! I just put my finger smack dab into the resin and left a big ol' fingerprint. That's fine. Everything's fine, chat. Everything's absolutely fine. That's why we have those leaves. Is to cover up stuff like this. Okay. Snip off the end of this. Go snip. Come on. There. Got it. Back to tweezers. Manipulate this into position and glue the other end of it there. Right there. Now that I'm getting the hang of this, it's getting a little easier. I'm definitely running into problems because my glue is so dried out and thick. But on the other hand, I feel like that's helping in some ways. There we go. Okay. Okay. Now we'll just manipulate this a little bit. Lovely. Now that we're done with the 3 spouts, done as they're gonna get. Looks okay. I don't know. Okay. Gonna add some froth. Now, this stuff. I think it's like a snow texture. A heavy, extra opaque white acrylic, which can be applied directly from the bottle, has been formulated for simulating raised crests on waves. Can be sculpted with a palette knife or dry brushed to form whirls and wakes. Let's put a little on my palette and see what... Oh yeah, look at that stuff. It's quite thick and globby. I'm gonna try using one of my sculpting brushes to pluck some off of the palette. And sort of I don't know. I feel like this needs to look more foamy and less just white. Yeah, it looks just like a blob of white paint, really. But it's got some definition to it. Like it's sculptable to a certain degree. Not sure what the best way to use this stuff is, but I'm definitely not using it correctly. That looks awful, but maybe it can be saved. Let's manipulate it a little bit. Let's make sort of mound of foam at the foot here. the spouts by mistake there. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. I'm thinking that the resin is still slightly wet, so I may be able to just agitate it. To make this look not sure that's working, but whatever. Trying to sort of froth this. And mix it with the resin to a degree. To look like foam, kinda. I think what I'm gonna do, having made this mess, is I'm going to add pour a little more resin around those impact points. Put a turtle there. I've got leaves. So leaves are going to float on the surface to cover up some of the worst blemishes. Pour a little resin over the mess that I've just made. Let's see what that looks like. That's interesting. Getting some sort of whirls. Okay, well, interesting. Maybe not exactly what I was going for when I started, but interesting. All right. Let's take a couple of these leaves here and paint them. And then we'll float them on the surface. To cover up the worst blemishes. Really, these should get 2 coats of paint. So we'll add some paint now, and then we'll do a wash and some highlights before we snip them off the sprue and float them on the surface. Noticing there are some areas on the base of this thing that I haven't painted because I did some molding earlier this week and I never went back in and repainted any of that. So let's attack those areas as well. chair. Haven't had one of those today. Oh no. Ah, chat. This is so difficult.
Step out into the sunlight, emerging from the past, to breathe the breezy morning air at last.
Okay. Fuck. I am really struggling today, but that's fine. It's fine. Everything's perfectly fine, chat. Because some days are a struggle, but you get through it. Perseverance. I'm gonna make this work. Need this in a moment. Put that away. Okay.
These West Virginia wildwoods across a world of waste, a garden with no fences and no gates. We're building on the ashes, we're lighting up the towns. Our reclamation day has come around. We're starting over, built something new. We've been a long, long time waiting, but we made it through. We're starting over, red, white, and blue. It's a brand new American dream for me and you. And like a mushroom cloud we rise and spread over each road and mountain range. New wars to wrangle and new blood to shed. We know that some things never change. We're starting over, build something new. We've been a long, long time waiting, but we made it through.
It's all good.
Started over, red, white, and blue. It's a brand new American dream.
Okay. I'm gonna get a green wash. Wash these leaves. Yeah, sadly I don't have a turtle or a frog ready to go for this. And I really want this project to be completed, so I'm not going to be doing a turtle or a frog, but leaves I do have. Okay. I might not stick these down today because the resin is still very wet, and I don't want the green to mix with the resin. Like, I don't want the paint to come off the leaves. But we've got some leaves pretty much ready to go. I'll just pluck them off and glue them on later. Oh my goodness. Gravity, why you gotta be this way? Sorry, the spouts keep drooping. I'm trying to encourage them to stay in place. Eventually they'll dry and harden. But until then, I'm going to have to periodically play with them. Okay. This is so hard. Alright, while I wait for some stuff to dry, oh, God, frickin' dang, stuck to my tweezers, there. While I wait for stuff to dry, I'm going to add some flocking to the outside. Okay. This whole project, chat, has been such a challenge. But we're getting close to the end. And even if it didn't come out looking the way I imagined it, I keep saying I learned a lot. Okay. For the flocking, we're going to use some just carpenter's glue. We're going to paint it on the outside of this thing, and then we're going to stick some flocking to the outside of this. Should add a good deal of texture and flavor to the piece. Get my flocking brush, which is this brush that I've been using for wood glue and is just basically hardened at the end. I can't tilt the piece now because there is quite a lot of wet resin going on in it. So we're just gonna paint on some glue. And I'm sort of concentrating on the areas where I was least proud of my sculpting. Those are the areas we're going to cover up with some flocking. Now this stuff does get everywhere, and I don't want it to get on the surface of this, so be a little careful with it. Like, I don't want it on the surface of the water portion. Just going to pinch some off and sort of mash it onto the glue that I've just stuck on there. Oh, That's exactly what I didn't want to happen. God frickin' damn it, this whole project, chat. I want it to be done. A little got inside the fountain, and that's just fine. That's gonna be the way it is. Getting this white goop everywhere now. Okay. Okay. I'm just gonna add a little bit more flocking to the outside while stuff dries. God, am I making a mess? The glue is too wet now. Trying to glue stuff on the outside of this thing, and the glue is not up to the task. Part of it is I've got glue on my fingers, so I'm gluing the flocking to myself and not the model. That's fine. Just fine. Chat, I think I am close to wrapping this up. I think we're going to call it a day for today. Made some progress. I'm not super happy with all of it, but we got some stuff done. I'm going to try and keep these spouts from drooping too much. I don't think there's anything I can do. I think they're just going to collapse and dry collapsed. Because I do have to go to work today, so I can't keep coming in here and fixing them until they dry. I don't know, chat. I'm not proud of this piece. At every step of the way, it has fought me. It has been an enormous pain in my butt the whole time I've been working on it. And it doesn't look great. But I learned a lot, and you have to accept that sometimes things don't turn out the way you want them to. It's been a long, challenging road this piece has, but in the end, I think I'm going to have to call it done, accept its flaws, and move on, and work on something else for a while. So next week, I'm going to return to Marvel Crisis Protocol. We're going to work on the remaining 4 figures that I have not done yet in Crisis Protocol. Get those 4 figures put together and painted so that I have a complete demo for Crisis Protocol ready to go for the Abington location of Battleground Games and Hobbies. And maybe like the Kill Team stuff that I actually quite enjoyed working on this week. It'll be a pleasant break after the long, annoying slog of this piece that just never worked. In the meantime, I'm going to call this for today. I'll probably come in here before I head to work and just sort of try to fix the angles on some of these spouts, water spouts. Who knows if I can get it to work. Maybe, maybe not. They can't all be wins. And I just have to accept that. I don't know, chat. It's been rough. Yeah, this piece is chock full of experience. No doubt. Anyhow, thank you for joining me, folks. Thank you for supporting me as I forced my way through this. It's been a long, challenging road. And yeah, I've definitely gained a lot of experience. Get those XP, get those levels. maybe the next time I do some of these techniques and projects, I'll be better equipped. We'll see. Mother. Ah. Oh. God. Yeah, I'm making it worse. I'm making it worse. Chat, it's been a long, challenging road, and I'm gonna call it. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm gonna take a weekend away from modeling for a little while, and I'll be back on Monday with more Crisis Protocol, Marvel Crisis Protocol. I'll see you folks then. In the meantime, be excellent to each other, and try to enjoy whatever art it is you choose to do. Bye, everybody.